All right, let's dive in. Friends, joining me on the line for another edition of The Haunting. Her name is Kat Armstrong. She is from Paranormal Exposures, and she joins me now. Hey, Kat, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Now, where are we at today? Because if I remember right, you're going to be calling me from a location, if I remember, or are you at home?
I'm currently home. I'll be there later. I was there last night.
You know what it was? It was yesterday when we were talking. You were like working on something, right?
Yeah, we were doing some maintenance out at Edinburgh Manor, and had a thermostat in the sink, and they both got fixed. So we're doing good.
There you go. Well, Kat, thank you so much for coming on. Just to give everybody a little backstory on this, earlier this month when I was talking to Corey Lohman from Lohman Paranormal, we got talking. I was asking him what, if I remember right, what was going to be kind of the next possible, like big name place here in the state of Iowa. And he brought up, is it the Klondike Hotel, if I remember right?
Klondike is awesome. Yeah, my team has been there a couple of times. It's over in Manila, Iowa.
Okay.
We went there last year in February. In fact, we're getting ready to schedule it again. They actually have heating and cooling, which is kind of one of those rare things for an investigation. So that's like for us a winter location. We're like, they have heat, we're in.
Yeah.
It lets you still go when it's like -20 outside.
Oh, those winter investigations when there's no heat are just the worst.
Yeah, definitely a fun location. We had a whole bunch of stuff there. We did 2 nights, and we're planning to go back and do it again. So.
All right. Well, let's talk about that one here in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about you because he brought your name up as one of the people that have been there, know something about it, that sort of thing. But Kat, you're with Paranormal Exposures. You've started the group, if I'm remembering right?
Correct. It's a team my husband and I co-founded. We were with another group. We've been investigating a long time. Decided to go out on our own and do our own thing. Most of our group has been with us even prior to the current team name. So we got a lot of people experience. We're a ginormous group. I have people from Boone. I have people from Nevada. I have people from Wisconsin, Cedar Rapids area.
Oh wow!
But we're about 15 strong right now on teammates. So.
Oh, that's crazy. So. When did you guys get this group together?
I love that we're airing in October. It was October of 2021, so anniversary month for us.
Yeah, there you go.
Month, and
it
just was a decision.
Okay, so you were saying that and I don't need the details or whatever, but was there just headbutting, or why was there a split from the original group, or you guys just wanted to do your own thing?
Paranormal is one of those weird fields where you change how you feel about things often. You know, you're playing with things that are very emotionally deep.
Okay. And
when there's a conflict of beliefs, you can either butt heads or you can go the direction that you're supposed to go.
Okay.
And I rather not. I'm not a drama person. The other team that we were part of, they're still actively doing their thing. Totally okay with that. We are just doing our own thing, and it works. So,
and I'm not trying. I wasn't trying to stir up anything or whatever. I just I was curious because you hear that a lot with the paranormal community, where it'll be a group and they have people that they just can't fundamentally get along. You have groups that I believe one thing, they believe something else, or they like to investigate this way, and so on and so forth. So it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can either do it nicely like we did, or you can do it in a way that is like really difficult, and that's a lot of energy spent.
Yeah, it really is. Kat Armstrong on the line with me from Paranormal Exposures. This is The Haunting, the 2024 edition. Let's go back to the earlier days. Kat, how did you kind of get into the world of paranormal? Was this something that, because here, let me set you up like this. I think people either get into it because something happened to them and they can't explain it, or they just have a general interest in it. Which one was it for you?
Well, I've been experiencing things since childhood. So for me, it's definitely experience-based.
Okay.
We won't go way into the story, but I saw things as a kid that were absolutely not normal to see. My brothers didn't see them, and it became this little family joke about fighting the monsters that I was seeing when I was 3 or 4 years old. Apparently, tomato soup is the fix for protecting yourself against evil. That's what my mom taught me.
Really? Did it work?
Yeah, it's just silly. I don't know. We ate tomato soup a lot. Campbell's out of the can.
There you go.
But yeah, I experienced stuff as a very young child. I've experienced stuff all the way through my entire life. I am intuitive, so I do see, hear, feel things that not everybody does. It makes it very weird because as a team member, you want everybody to have an experience. And if they don't have the same position of experience that you do, how do you make it real for them too?
Yeah.
And so we've got a very tech guy. This gentleman named Nico on our team builds equipment that is absolutely phenomenal. It measures radiation and EMF and air pressure and humidity. And yeah, so he's running these things to try to validate that the environment changes also.
I don't know why, but whenever I get into people talking about building stuff, I always picture a lawnmower engine and sparks shooting out for some reason.
No, that would be me trying to mow my lawn. I mean, that's but no, he builds this fascinating equipment. I don't even understand it, but then he gives us these data reports, and it's fascinating. Locations absolutely do have fluctuations in energy when we're getting activity.
Go back. What was his name again? Miko or Nico?
Nico, Niko.
Now, does he have like a engineering background or whatever, or what? Because you don't hear many people, on this stuff go, I'm building my own stuff that detects radiation.
Right. So he was part of a previous team also that was very into it. He, for a long time, owned a computer. He's a computer repairman, basically.
Okay.
So he's very technical. He was doing computer work with his own business for many, many years. He's on a little side adventure now. We may or may not joke about midlife crisis.
Believe me, I get that.
But yeah, he definitely has a technical background.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really cool.
That's very cool. Kat Armstrong from Paranormal Exposures. Exposures. I swear I talk for a living. Joining me on this edition of The Haunting, talking a little bit about her team. So it sounds like you guys kind of cover the gambit from the spiritual side to the technical side when you go out and investigate, right?
Absolutely. We've got such a variety. So a lot of teams you get the 4 guys that are best friends that are going out and doing this thing, and they're all the same type of background.
Yeah.
And that's totally cool. But my team I'm an old lady. I'm 47, no shame there. I've got kids that are one of our teammates. She's been investigating with us since 2018. She's 19 right now.
Okay.
She's been with us this whole time. My daughter is also 19 and has investigated with us since 14 years old. And it's a different perspective.
Yeah.
We have a few 20-year-old young men, different perspective. My husband obviously is the one when we get into investigations that, spirits are like, what did he say? We've actually had that. It's pretty funny.
He's Scottish, right?
Yes, he's from Glasgow. He moved here in 2014 to marry me, of all things. So yeah. And his accent is strong, and apparently spirits don't speak Scottish everywhere we go. So,
oh, that's hilarious. Kat Armstrong on the line with me. Hey, real quick, go back to when you were a kid and seeing this thing. I think it's both fascinating and terrifying when kids see stuff because they haven't been taught to lie yet about things.
Right.
Is there one thing that you really remember that you're comfortable saying, or what were the things you were seeing?
So this is silly, but my family dubbed them monkey monsters for lack of any other explanation. I was seeing these large, hair-covered, creature-esque, not human things.
Weird. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but weird.
Right. So we were living in a house, pretty well, not quite, but
where the wild things are.
Kind of could have been that. It's weird because for me, it only happened in the house we lived in when we were in Escondido, California. So I'm a Navy brat. We grew up in San Diego area. My dad served 23 years. My mom kept us in the same place, so we were at this house for my entire upbringing until my dad retired when I was 13.
Really?
When we moved to Iowa, those things didn't come with.
So do you
think at the property?
So it was attached to the property. Do you have any idea? because you don't hear large, hairy, I mean, if you do, it's more Sasquatch forest related. Any idea what you may have been seeing as you look back on it now?
I know there's other beings and things that are out there. I think we live interdimensionally, that we are seeing the vibration that humans see, and there's other things around us all the time.
Okay.
We just aren't aware of it. That's my perspective. So I see it a different frequency than other people do on things. And that's what I think mediumship and psychic connections are, is connecting at a different frequency. So what I may experience is at a frequency that you may not experience, but then there's things that you're going to get at a frequency that I'm not going to ever get. And that just makes it much more complicated.
See, that makes a lot of sense, because like I have a hard time seeing just in regular vision blue LED lights. And I talked to my eye doctor. I'm like, yeah, every time I see a blue LED, like a Christmas light type thing, it's never in focus. And he goes, yeah, it's just something about your eye that you're probably never going to be able to see it right, because your eye sees that color and that thing differently. So that makes a ton of sense. So that's really, were they friendly? Were they malevolent? What was kind of the feeling about these things?
I was terrified. My brothers, bless their hearts. I have a older brother and then two younger brothers. The youngest one wasn't born yet.
Okay.
But my brothers would get wrapping paper tubes to fight the monsters off for me while I sat in my room crying under my bed sheet.
Okay.
For them, it was a game. For them, it was absolutely a game. They did this thing. It was fun. It was exciting. I was in tears. They didn't understand why. Nobody really understood why. I just dealt with it. And then eventually I just like, whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I was there till, almost 13 years old, and they were there the whole time. At some point, I just kind of didn't interact with them anymore, because I don't remember as a 10-year-old fighting wrapping paper tubes and trying to hit the creatures that supposedly they were trying to fight. But I don't know. It just was a very odd experience. I got adult experiences that are just as weird, that you just don't talk about them because, committal is a thing.
Yeah. No, we will talk about it today. Well, that's the kind of thing, like I've told my wife stuff where she goes, what? I go, you will think I am crazy if I tell you. So I get it. I get it. Kat Armstrong from Paranormal Exposures joining me on The Haunting. So let's fast forward a little bit. So you get into investigating. What was it like the first time you got into investigating, and where was the first place you went to investigate?
So I did a lot of random stuff as a teenager by myself. I used to hang out in cemeteries.
You're that girl.
Just because, yeah. Hi, I'm that girl.
I'm kidding.
But I felt more comfortable there. Oh, no judgment at all. I'm happy to be that girl. I'm proud to be that girl. So I wouldn't say like necessarily it was technical investigation, but I was immersing myself in things all the time. My first big thing would have been in 2012, I went to Scotland to meet my now husband's family, and we went to Edinburgh Vaults over there and had some experiences and ran through there with some equipment on tours and things like that. We went to Drover's Inn, which is like the oldest standing inn in Scotland, like from the 1700s. That was fascinating, but we were very low tech. Because we were not a part of a team at that point. Digital recorders and EMF meters and, some of the more basic things that the airport isn't going to go, oh my gosh, what are you making? And, can that be on a plane? But
that's crazy stuff. Okay. So that was kind of the beginning for you, and then moved to some different groups. Eventually Paranormal Exposures comes around. Tell us a little bit more about the group. Like when you guys got going, what came first, the investigation or the black t-shirts?
We didn't do t-shirts
I'm sorry. Really?
I know. We didn't do t-shirts forever. It took us years. It took us years to be like, I guess we probably should put our logos on shirts, but that's because we were helping at events. And you kind of have to be recognizable that somebody knows you're the person that's leading it.
I'm so glad that you took the joke.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many jokes in the paranormal. It's made it happen to ourselves, right?
It is always funny. For a while, it was that question. It's like, what came first, your T-shirt or your first investigation? Oh, the T-shirt was totally first, so we could say we're paranormal investigators. But
we want to go down the route of really weird. The route of really weird is the things that you learn when you're filming at locations.
Yeah.
Like even if you have the most patterned leggings, they come up like you're not wearing pants when you videotape. So there's a lot of lessons to be learned when you're investigating places. T-shirts better be long. But
yeah. That's awesome. Kat Armstrong on the line with me right now. All right, so early days of Paranormal Exposures, did the team immediately start that big, or did you just kind of start adding people as you went?
So we came from another team. The team started as a group of 11,
Okay.
coming
big.
from the other team. It is. Not all of those people are with us still, but as we said, there's just things that come up and personal feelings that become what they are, and you have to stick to your guns. And so, like, even the people that we've lost along the way, I respect the heck out of them, and was thankful for the time that we've gotten to investigate together. But their beliefs and my beliefs didn't match.
Yeah. So it sounds
just
more
is what it is. But
so it sounds kind of like there was kind of a split in the group itself.
It's just kind of up and down. Some people stick with it and are very hardcore into it, and some people just kind of, okay, I have had an experience now, and I'm going to go. We have a young lady named Heidi, and she's Renaissance fair sword fighting. So bless her heart, love her to death. She's not coming out to investigations, but she's still team.
You know what? I get that, because there's so many teams that I could have been a part of, and my answer is always the same. It's like, listen, I would love to. I don't have the time. I don't have the time to dedicate to this that it deserves. So I don't want to, do I love going out with groups? Absolutely. Love it. Do I want to say that, hey, you can count on me to go through 12 hours of audio? No, I'm sorry. I don't have it in me,
What? Today, you volunteered to do at least 12 hours of audio review.
Yeah. No. You know what, though? I will say, and I've helped some of my friends out over time. They'll say, hey, can I send you a piece of audio? Can you turn it up? Can you clean out the white noise? I do that for friends, like if they have something that they just need a little bit more. So I do that from time to time. But anyways, this is more about you. Paranormal Exposure. So where was the first place you guys went as a group?
It would definitely be Edinburgh Manor. Okay. Which is because I am a tour guide there. I've been doing tours there for about 4 years now. And a lot of my team, that's where I trained them. So, I have certain expectations of what I want an investigation to look like.
Yeah.
The biggest of that is I don't really want running and screaming and panic and fear. So for me,
real quick, if you're doing it at Edinburgh, it's a little that's kind of the deep end of the pool to be training in, right?
Time.
I'm sorry, you broke up. What was that?
I said, but we trained them in the daytime.
Oh, okay.
So I would be doing day tours, and then the time in between, we would be out there and learn how the equipment works and listen to the sounds that happen in a space and get a feel for what is actually happening. That place is active during the day just as much, if not more, than nighttime.
Really? You don't hear that very often.
Treasure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Most places are. But apparently with the T-shirt, you also get night vision. So,
Oh, you know what? You're not wrong. You are not wrong. So, all right, let's talk about some of the experiences you've had in Edinburgh, as I was going to call it for your husband. What's your husband's name?
William.
William? This one's just for you.
Yeah.
Edinburgh.
He's going to love me for that.
Oh, I imagine so. He's going to hate me as soon as he sees me. I'm going to get punched right in the face. But so let's talk about Edinburgh. What's your, yes, you're a tour guide there, but what's your kind of thought of the place in general?
So it's fascinating. I think it gets a bad rap for being a lot scarier than it most of the time is.
Okay.
So, if you've watched any of the shows or seen any of the things that people put out on YouTube, they're like, oh my gosh, scariest asylum in all of Iowa. And the reality is it never was technically an asylum. It was never really a medical facility until they did the nursing home in the 80s, till the closing in 2010. And most of the interactions that I have there and that most people have there are spirits of residents that passed on.
Okay.
And you can either be really terrified of that, which some people are. Some people are like, oh my gosh, I heard a noise and I'm out of here. And I'm kind of like, okay, so who made the noise? Why did you make the noise? Do you need something?
Yeah.
And I'm here for whatever you need. If you want to have a conversation, you tell me what you want to talk about, because I'm here just as much for you as I am for the experience. And, if you watch the shows, the Joker, everybody's heard about the Joker. And he's this big, mischievous, scary 7 to 9 foot guy in the basement that's, seen visibly as an apparition, and he scratches and he growls and he pulls hair and he does all the things. Reality is, he does those things. It's how you react to it and how you respond to it. So, you hear a growl, you can run screaming and yelling, that D word, demons. Or you could be like, okay, obviously you're aggressive today. Why are you being aggressive? And so I think that because my team trained up with daytime, the fear level is different.
Okay.
Because you can have interactions still, even if something scratches you, or you can run away when the thing you're there for is answers for how did it do that.
No, that's an interesting place. And I think in the 5 or 6 years I've been doing these interviews with folks, Edinburgh, it comes up, and you know what I will say? It is the only place that well, one of the few, I should say, in Iowa at least, that the touching thing is big there.
Yes,
and
absolutely is.
And I will say, and preface this by saying 2 different levels of it. Yeah, that's the kind of the interesting one. And I've truth be told, I've never actually been there, so I don't have anything.
So when are you coming out?
I would love to. I legitimately would. It's one of those places I just haven't been to.
That's awesome. We'll make it happen.
Okay.
Speaking touch, one of my experiences with my team very early on, it was actually the first overnight for my group, prior to Paranormal Exposures, with the people that were still team then.
Uh-huh.
And we were investigating a room on the men's side upstairs, and we had 6 of us in the room. I mean, we were just kind of running several pieces of equipment, and we had a spirit box running, and we're asking questions. And I'm using the SLS camera, which is the one that makes the stick figures pop up and things like that. We're getting nothing on that. But I'm leaning on the walker because the darn thing's heavy, and, you only want to hold it for so long. And so I'm sitting on a bed leaning on a walker. And all of a sudden, my cheek just starts burning on fire.
Oh, wow.
And I look at the guy next to me, and I'm like, is my face really hot right now? Because it is like burning. And he, touches my cheek, and he's like, oh my gosh, when your skin radiates heat, like the worst sunburn you've ever had, that's what was happening to my face.
Oh, wow.
Next thing you know, I've got 6 flashlights in my face. Everybody's trying to figure out what's going on. Signs of something happening to my face is just appearing on my face. It's an open hand slap. You can see the finger lines.
Oh, wow.
But my skin burned. I didn't get smacked in the face like physically. I just all of a sudden something, spiritually hit me in the face.
Oh, that's
it
crazy.
Happened to my other teammate, Savannah, shortly after that, within the same 15 minutes, on her cheek. And then I ended up with scratches on my arm. And it was weird because, we could have been like, oh my gosh, run, which sometimes seems to be what happens. But we stayed and we were asking questions. And she's like, why would you do that to my friend? And on the spirit box, a little voice comes through, and there's a big pause between the words. It goes, sorry, Mom. Oh. And it was a little boy. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure a little boy didn't hit me in the face, but okay. Somebody's at least apologizing. And we stayed for a little bit longer, but then she's, a minor. And so we're like, she just got marks on her face. We're going out. And we made a decision at that point, because it was the first time for team that there really wasn't a recovery for what are we doing next with all of these new people, because William and I were the only 2 that had really investigated overnight before. And so we made a decision, it got uncomfortable, and people were starting to act a little bit erratically. Like one guy was like, fight or flight, I'm going to go kick its butt, bring it on, and I'm like, we don't really want to provoke, because then it is going to get more aggressive. You're not in the
same dimension, man.
Right. But it's, it's interesting to watch what people's emotional reactions are to that.
Yeah.
And so we chose to pack it up for the night, and then we came back and did another investigation another night. And,
that's crazy.
We had a meeting between those 2 things and planned out, well, how do you respond? What do you do next time? So it's all learning.
Kat Armstrong from Paranormal Exposures joining me on the line. Kat, when I say this, you don't strike me as the type that gets real scared of a place, but has there been a place in Iowa that has made you uncomfortable? Like, there's definitely something I'm not cool with in this place?
Same place.
Really?
The one I work at. Yeah.
Okay.
We had an instance where something got aggravated for a while, enough so that I almost quit working there. I was actually physically attacked several times within a 2-week period.
Oh, wow.
The first thing that happened was I got pushed into a railing outside the front step, and it actually injured my arm long enough. Like, I had an injury to my arm for 8 months, where I had this big knot in my muscle of my arm for like 8 months. I got knocked into it that hard.
Wow.
I was there to check somebody in. I don't know why that happened. Getting scratched. I was getting scratched coming up from the basement almost every single time I was in there for like that 2-week period. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but something's not happy. And I was like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. It wasn't necessarily fear. It was like, quit abusing me.
Yeah.
But I guess I come from a trauma background. So, it is just what it is. And you kind of try to figure it out. And I talked to the owner and I'm like, this is what's going on. This is why I'm not happy with it. She's kind of like, I don't know why it's doing that. And, I kind of just started laying down limits. I'm like, you're not allowed to do this. I'm not doing this. If you guys want me to come in here and take care of your building and do the sweeping and making the beds, then you got to leave me the heck alone. And it kind of settled down, and it just is what it is. But, it gets aggressive with other people too. So
it's so crazy when you lay down rules in that world and it gets followed. That's one thing that's always been kind of fascinating to me. And it all started, a short story, a teacher of mine, she had something in her house that kept moving her keys. Nothing crazy, but her keys were never where they were when she left, right? And finally she said, stop moving my keys. And they never moved again. That was it.
Right.
It's weird. How about outside of, is that the one that really sticks out? Or is there a place that you kind of walked in and it's like, no, this is something's wrong in this environment?
We just did Missouri State Penitentiary.
Okay, that's one that comes up a lot.
And the energy in there is gross. It just is really gross. Again, being intuitive, I go in there and I'm like, oh yay, if I am opening myself up to this, I'm allowing murderers and rapists and horrible people to share my energy. And it really didn't feel like something that I wanted to do. Definitely was an experience. We definitely had some interactions. One of our favorite things to do is the Estes method, where you do the spirit box and the noise canceling headphones and the blindfold, and you put somebody in deprivation, and that's usually me. Depending on what level you want to communicate, you can get a lot of stuff. And I just didn't really feel comfortable being all in at that place. It just really, I had to be on guard for like, nope, I really don't want all of that on me. It's just kind of gross. And now my team is like, I think I have an attachment from there. I'm having this happening. And I'm like, oh, yay. Another whole story.
Yeah. You know what? That is kind of I think about that when I go to places, and I've only ever had one instance where I thought I had a hitchhiker with me. But it is definitely the way I think about it in my head is a kind of a Star Trek thing. It's like shields up when you go in.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
Kat Armstrong from Paranormal Exposures on the line with me right now. This is always one that's kind of interesting, but there's always a funny moment in these investigations. There's always that moment where something happens where it's like, really? Did I just see that? Did I just hear that? Did that just really happen? And sometimes they are funny, but do you have moments that stick out to you like that?
I'm opposite of most teams that go in to investigate. Everybody goes in, and a lot of times it's very serious and very organized. And, these recorders have to be placed in these spaces, and this is how we're planning it out, and this is the schedule, and this is what it is. I'm the opposite. We roll in, we'll have a couple ideas, like we talk ahead of time. If you got to do one thing, what's your one thing you want to do? And I make sure everybody gets their one thing if it's at all possible.
Okay.
And from there, we just investigate and let the building lead us to what it wants us to do. And I'm going to monster think, the scaring the kids, they get all the energy from the scaring of the kids, and then they find out at the end that laughter brings them 10 times more energy. I think paranormal is the same.
Okay.
So we are a bunch of idiots in there being absolutely stupid sometimes. We're not necessarily all serious and all in and asking the questions like, when did you die? What room is your room? We've had conversations like, hey, what toppings do you like on your pizza? And things are answering back. And you're like, wow, guess pizza's the thing. And, it's just being aware of the space. Somebody trips and falls down. You're like, hey, did you see her fall down? That was pretty funny, wasn't it? And sometimes you get a response. It's being real in the places. Now, my favorite, again, we're going back to my lovely Scottish husband. I love the man to death. I was doing a tour at Edinburgh. He's walking around with this piece of equipment called an ovilus, which is the one that has the little words pop up on screen.
Yeah.
And this thing's not said a single word for like 45 minutes while they're walking through investigating. He walks into the storm shelter where I'm at with my group of 20 plus people, and the thing spouts out 2 words really fast. British arrived. Anybody that knows Scotland, that's about as insulting as you can get, is to call a Scotsman British. I'm dying laughing. The people don't know why it's so funny, but I'm thinking that's the best thing that's ever happened.
Oh,
but it's happened more than one place. It's happened other places. We literally had an Estes session at a private location where we're asking questions. Well, he's asking questions. I'm again in the headphones. He asked a question. My response was, what? And then he asked it again, and there's no answer. And then the other lady on the team, Denise, is like, Do you need us to speak more clearly and slowly so you understand what we're saying? And my reply back is, English? So, they have humor. They have humor.
No, I absolutely believe that. Now, is it the kind of sense of humor that we can always understand? No, not at all. But, it is what it is. Kat Armstrong on the line with me talking about the world of the weird and the paranormal here on The Haunting. Do you have a pet peeve when it comes to investigations?
As a person that represents a location, I'm not going to say my pet peeves because I deal with a lot of people.
Oh, come on. So there is something that kind of drives you up the wall. People
that think that they need to announce titles to me the minute they walk in the door so that they can validate themselves. Ouch. Didn't do that. That's the hardest part for me. So.
Well, yeah, there's no degree in this stuff. There's no,
right.
I was setting up one of these other interviews and they wanted to know what I thought of the paranormal. I go, I think there's more out there, but I don't know what it is. And I don't really think anybody else does either. I think it's all best guess. But one stupid one for me is people that don't set down their audio recorder.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
When they're shaking it, moving around, it's like, yeah, it sounds like there's movement. Yeah, it's you diff.
Because obviously we review our own audio.
Yeah.
We were for our school doing an investigation. I don't know where I set my recorder down. I'm trying to figure out where the heck it is. Guess where I put my running recorder?
In your back pocket.
In my back pocket.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've got 37 minutes of back pocket.
Oh.
And I'm like, geez,
Boy, it sounds like wrestling. This was really active that night. So what's one of your, besides Edinburgh, what's a favorite place for you to go to?
I really like Brodhead Manor in Wisconsin.
Okay, what's up
we've
with
been
there?
a lot of places. So it's an old school. It was a middle school. I believe it served as an elementary, high school, other points. It's like 60,000 square feet of school building.
Okay.
There's absolutely no records of deaths on property, which kind of goes against all of the things that everybody assumes makes places haunted, which kind of fascinates me because we get interactions of children. And we're like, why are there children here? And they do give us names. And we were doing I'm a very metaphysical person, so I teach mirror scrying, black mirror scrying. So we were doing a session of that with some people at Brodhead, and we got this little boy, and not just myself, but this other lady, both got the same images. And afterwards, we're like, he was like maybe 7 or 10. He was really thin, and he looked really sickly, and he was hugging his knees to his chest with like scrappy-looking sandy blonde hair, and it was just really weird that we both got the exact same visual thing in our mirrors.
Real quick, the mirror scrying, what is that exactly?
So you're basically looking into a reflection of a black mirror. So the glass is black,
okay.
Or you can use it as a shiny piece of obsidian. And you're basically looking through into the mirror in hopes of getting a visual or other type of connection while concentrating on this piece of equipment. So you're basically tuning into your intuitive self to try to get message from spirit or spirit guides or wherever or whatever it is that you're trying to communicate with.
Is that something, and this is because I don't know much about it, is this something anybody can try, or is it more you got to have a little bit more of an antenna than other people?
I teach it to everybody.
Okay.
So I've taught it several. I speak at a lot of events in Iowa and Wisconsin, basically because I feel like everybody deserves to have a chance to learn all of the things and try at least once or twice or 3 times. I feel like there's a lot of people that create fear. A lot of people look at a black mirror and they're like, oh my gosh, it's just like a Ouija board. And I can't even look at that, the darkness and the scary and the whatever. And I'm like, it's called a black mirror because the glass is literally black. Because when you look in a silver mirror, you see your reflection very clearly, and that distracts you from being able to look through and into. And so the black kind of dulls out the visual of self so that you can look into the depth of it and see what you can get.
Mirrors are inherently kind of creepy, though, right? Would you agree?
I think mirrors are fascinating and awesome tools, and it's because I know what I'm doing with them, I guess. But yeah, there's mirrors that I don't use. There's mirrors that are at locations and everybody's like, oh my gosh, so I went to this place and they have this mirror and I decided to play Bloody Mary. And I'm like, just back it up for a moment. And they're like, what? And I'm like, so if for the sake of just understanding right now, if Bloody Mary actually was a real thing, if that actually could possibly happen, is the Villisca axe murder house where you really want to have that happen?
Yeah.
Do you want that to come out at you in a prison? What kind of energy are you really wanting to have happen? I just think it's kind of funny because people are like, oh, I guess I didn't think about it. And I'm like, yeah, who else used that mirror for something else that you don't even know what energy imprints they put on it? They're like, I guess I didn't think about that.
And I don't think a lot of people do. I mean, they kind of stumble around this stuff. And when I say stumble, I mean, it's you don't always know exactly what you might be doing. You don't always know exactly what you might be inviting in for answers. I mean, even if you're just doing an EVP session or something, you don't quite know who you're talking to, what you're asking to come answer. And Jesus, if you're going to, I wonder, and this is completely off the subject, but I wonder on the other side, in the spirit realm, whatever you want to call it, what Bloody Mary is actually attached to.
If it's even real.
Well, I mean more the kind of you're throwing that kind of energy out there. Someone's got it in their mind's eye, what they think Bloody Mary is. I wonder what that attaches to on the other side, if anything, or if it's a busy line signal. I know some people think differently about this stuff, but you start throwing energy and invitation out there, and you're probably going to get some weird results at some point. Something's going to answer.
Sometimes the weird result is exactly what we're after, but sometimes it's definitely not. And I think it's based off of each time. We've had some investigations at same locations where one night you're like, happy-go-lucky, let's do everything. And other nights you're like, I really don't feel like I want to be in this building right now. Something's off. And it's just awareness and understanding of the differences of what you're interacting with.
How often, and it doesn't matter the place, and when you bring it up like that, when the energy seems off, how much of this stuff is stuff that people drag in? When you have groups coming in all the time expecting one thing or another, how much of it is that other than the place?
I think that has a lot of effect on a lot of things. And for me, I think you energetically get what you ask for. So if you come in and you're kind of like low energy and you're throwing equipment out for the sake of, I'm supposed to throw out this equipment, and you're kind of ho-hum asking the questions, but it was a long day at work and, you're not really invested in it.
Yeah.
The chances are you're going to have a slow and quiet night. And if you come in and you're that group of 20-year-olds that just watched, scary movies, and now you're like all hyped up to come into this place, there's a chance that you're going to get a completely different building because you're coming in with adrenaline and anxiety and fear and excitement, and that energy is interacting with the environment.
That's interesting. It's so weird and wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Kat Armstrong from Paranormal Exposures. And by the way, if anybody wants to find them, we'll have links to all of your guys' stuff at the bottom of the page. You guys are on Facebook, TikTok. What was the other one? Instagram. What's the weirdest thing you've come across like that? Whether it's like a feeling you went in, whether it's something that happened, what's that weird one for you?
So I was not at a location. I was home. And we were going to be going to an event, and this is interesting because this is an event that actually Lallman Paranormal was sort of a part of what we were doing also. But we were going to Malvern Manor.
Okay.
And it was an event that was for an experiment that they had been doing with trying to create tulpas, which is a whole nother gamma of odd experiences. But it's the belief that a repetition of stating that something is there can actually create that thing.
Manifestation.
So they basically were seeing if with this experiment they could manifest a new spirit at Malvern Manor. And I was not part of the group that knew that that's what it was. I was part of the control group because I know the place well enough. There's no way they were sneaking in a new spirit on me.
Yeah.
So we were just instantly part of the other group. So this was a night where they were doing a, reveal of this is what the whole experiment was, and we were doing some investigation. And we were at Malvern, and I already knew that same night that Lallman Paranormal was at Villisca House.
Okay.
And this other sideline experiment was going on at the same time. It was a black mirror experiment that somebody else put together. But both of these locations had a black mirror that is supposedly connected to a network of mirrors that they are able to intercommunicate within from location to location. And I'm like, I kind of want to see if that happens because I've not actually ever done or tried that before. And so I'm like, hey, Corey, you guys got to put somebody in front of the mirror at the axe murder house at the same time that I go in front of the mirror at Malvern. So we're sitting in the hallway. And of course, this is an event. So we've got like, the author Richard Estep is there, and some of the people that are really big at Malvern, like Robert Gray, he's been on your show before. He's part of Paranormania. They were on your show a few years ago. He was there, and he's kind of setting up to do an Estes session next to me, scrying into the mirror. And my husband sits down next to Richard, and they're like, well, what are you getting? And I'm like, I'm not getting anything really. I'm just seeing kind of like lights that are kind of just going all around. And then Richard looks at William, and he's like, did they text you that they're ready yet? And he's like, I'll text them really quick. And no, they're still setting up. So it's very viable that I was seeing them running flashlights up and down through the attic.
Oh, weird.
While they're getting set up. And I'm like, I'm kind of in a zone where I'm not really paying attention to all what they're talking about. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, I'm seeing somebody now, but I can't really make it out, because I'm getting kind of like a silhouette, but not really a person. But I'm getting a little girl in the background, and I'm very clearly seeing like this is the attic space. And Robert Gray throws on his headphones and his blindfold, and he starts doing this Estes session, and he can't hear what I'm saying. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting a little girl. And he goes, it's Catherine, which is one of the children that got murdered at Villisca. And so we're getting connecting things, and we're like, that's really weird. Come to find out, when we were done with the session, Tia was seeing some things in the mirror, which is, we never identified each other. And at the end, I'm like, I'm so sure it was Tia, but I felt like I was going to say it wrong, and then everybody's going to think I was like not real. And so I didn't say it. And then she's like, I thought it was Kat, but I really didn't want to say it because I wasn't sure. And so we were like, damn it, we should have just said. But the reality is it was really awesome. It was so weird.
It sounds like the mirrors they use and people are going to laugh at me, but I immediately thought of the mirrors from Harry Potter.
I love the comparison of Harry Potter. What a beautiful magical mirror, right?
Yeah, no, the not the Ezra, the Desire mirror, but at the end of the thing, they're using the two mirrors to communicate, and he kept seeing the flashes of someone. Yeah. So no, that makes sense.
Yeah, like beautiful mirrors. I mean, that's fascinating, and there's a reality behind it that it's actually possible.
That's weird
and
stuff.
That's scary in the thought that it's able to happen, but it's awesome that it's a potential possibility. I've done so many experiments now for different people where they're like, I just want to see if you can connect to a location that you don't know where I'm at.
Remote viewing.
And I've done that, and I've made connections. And so they're kind of like, well, now I don't know what to say because you actually got valid information.
Oh, that's crazy stuff. Kat Armstrong on the line with me, talking about the world of the weird and paranormal and everything that goes bump in the night. Just a couple more things I want to hit on real quick, because we do need to talk about the Klondike Hotel, because that was the one that kind of started all this. You said it's in Manila, Iowa, I believe?
Yes, way over on the west side, so very far from us Cedar Rapidians. So
what's kind of lowdown on the place?
So it's an old hotel, basically operated as a hotel for this tiny little town, like right off the railroad track. So it's had a lot of people in and people out, and a lot of experiences of just life.
Okay.
That's a very busy type of location to have. They have a museum in there, so it's full of artifacts and things that are from that town, in that area, that local community. So you've got the potential of spirits from on site. I can't give specifics on names and things because my brain is completely not on that subject matter at the moment.
That's fine. Don't worry about it.
They do have a gentleman that apparently did die in one of the bathrooms there.
Okay.
It operated at some points as a kind of a, renting out the rooms, not quite a hotel type of a situation where it was like long-term stay and things like that. Just a lot of fascinating interactions that seem to have created experiences that are paranormal. We get a lot of interactions with equipment. None of it felt negative or bad. We kind of did like a spiritual retreat. That's where I was teaching my team different ways of connecting intuitively and kind of, because I think everybody can learn to be intuitive. It's just getting into a state of mind where you actually are in the moment. Society kind of taught us all to not be in that place.
Yeah, going back to the kids.
Awesome to get to sit and do those things.
Well, going back to the kids thing, that's what always kind of fascinates me. You haven't been taught to lie yet. You haven't been taught that certain things aren't weird.
Right.
So, like when my kid, I can remember some of the stuff he said that it's like, I didn't go, oh no, you don't know what you're talking about. It would be, what do you remember, or what? Because he, my son Jace, I don't know why, but it sounded like he was a sailor in a past life. The way he would talk about ships and stuff, it would be, he'd be watching some ship get sunk, for something. He'd go, there she goes. it was very like he sounded like a sailor. You know what I'm saying?
That's awesome.
So anyways, Kat Armstrong on the line with me right now. So Klondike, Manila, Iowa, do you recommend it as a good place to go investigate or what?
It depends on what kind of a team you are. If you're a team that wants to get valid interactions that may not be scary, it's an amazing location.
Okay.
If you're out there for I just want something to make me poop my pants, it's maybe not the choice of places that you want to pick because it's not probably going to give you that type of energy. We had so many good interactions. We got EVPs, we got interactions with REM pods, we got EMF readings, we got all kinds of stuff. Right. We had noises that were audible, so it was fascinating. It was a great place.
And with that being said, whether it's the Klondike Hotel or Edinburgh or Farrar or Malvern Manor or whatever, before you just stumble across this place, please don't just trespass. Call the proper people. If you want to go see it, set up tours, do it the official way. Don't just break in and do it or, just show up. That's never a good thing. It never ends well.
Most of these places have cameras and are very aware that that's a potential. So it's just smart to do it the right way. Yeah.
People get into this time of year and it's like, oh, I just want to go be scared. So let's go stumble around a cemetery in the middle of the night. And one, it's rude. I mean, people are trying to rest there. Two, I mean, you might stumble into something, knock over someone's tombstone or break something or whatever. I mean, there's just a lot of things that can go wrong just on the physical level. And you don't even want to mess around. My dad has a saying, don't with the dead. So you get into some of that.
Yeah, here we are talking paranormal.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I don't think we're doing anything bad. But Kat, that kind of does bring up a good point. You're into this stuff. Is there anything that Kat Armstrong just thinks is bullshit, for lack of a better term?
Oh my goodness!
Like, is there one subject you're like?
Say it's yes, I think there's a lot of differences between what a paranormal investigation is and paratainment, as I call it. So most of the people that are like, oh my gosh, I want to get into this, they're watching what I would call paratainment, the TV shows, the YouTubers that are going out and getting all of the scary stuff. But they have to have something that makes it dramatic in order for it to be a show for somebody to watch. So I know that there are people out there that absolutely have faked evidence. And it's just like, why? When the reality of it is so amazing, spend a little more time digging into it. Like for me, I would rather have real than scare factor any day of the week. But for most people, they're like, well, I thought it was all about getting scared. You're sitting here in a building for 12 hours and nothing is happening. That is really boring. Why would you do that?
It's a lot more sitting around in the dark talking to nothing than people think. Fair?
Very fair.
So, Kat Armstrong on the line with me right now from Paranormal. Boy, I'm having trouble saying paranormal today for some reason. Paranormal Exposures. We'll have all your details at the bottom of the page. As we get ready to wrap up, you guys got stuff coming up? What's kind of coming up next for your group?
Well, November is basically end of season. We have a 2-night investigation coming up at Edinburgh Manor in November. Other than that, William and I will be at an event over at Malvern Manor at the end of November. That is another team's event that we're going to be at. Other than that, this is the wind it down, spend the winter trying to catch up on review of evidence and plan out the season for 2025 because right now is the time to book them all.
Do you have an idea of where you might like to go next year?
So we do a lot of repetition. I'm less about the bucket list locations as I am about being able to get credible evidence.
Okay.
So for us, being able to have repetition of experiences is valuable in the proof of what we're doing. So we go back to the same places.
Okay.
We're hoping to do Malvern Manor again in 25. We are for sure doing Edinburgh Manor again in 2025. We've got a couple private locations that aren't publicly available at the moment. We'll definitely be hitting those again because we're kind of doing some groundwork research for those places for them to decide what are we doing with that. Brodhead Manor, I know that we're going to be at an event there next year already in July. That one's kind of different. It's called Paranormal Rockdown. Sounds right up your alley, does it not? But they're bringing in night one as bands. Night one is bands playing at the haunted location.
Day
2 is actually a vendor event, and and then an investigation at night that my team is helping lead with that.
Okay.
So it's kind of awesome. It's kind of awesome.
Not to cut you off, but you just made me think of it. You know what I didn't ask you? If you had one piece of evidence from any of the investigations you've done that you think would make someone a believer, what is it?
It's actually not my evidence, but I have a person that shared a photo with me that is undoubtedly a full shadow person standing in a hallway that I can't question. It's wild. It's unexplainable. And then 2 other teams have captured a very similar photo. That's repetition. That's more real. We've had some voice stuff that is phenomenal but then it's whether they believe or disbelieve that you can actually capture audio. So it's just back in the, who believes what kind of.
I wholeheartedly believe someone can capture audio in EVPs.
Oh, absolutely.
I've heard some stuff that I can't explain. Well, I should say it like this. I told a guy, he sent me a piece of audio from Velisca, and it's one of the most frightening pieces of audio I've ever heard. And as someone that works with audio, he's like, what do you think? I'm like, listen, could I make this? Is kind of what I run it through in my own head. Could I make this? And the answer is always yes. Could I do it? Yes. How hard would it be is always the question. And the stuff that it'd be like, this would be really hard to do, to be able to go through, amplify it, pull out the white noise, do, all the other little tricks of the trade for it to get that, to be able to pull out that little piece of audio. It's like, that would be tough,
Right.
So anyways.
Yeah, so we have a few clips on our TikTok, which I'm not on there enough, but they're the ones that are pinned at the top. Those are my 3 favorites.
Okay.
They're all spirit box audio, but they are directly answering things that we're asking. And one of those is actually a Velisca clip. We're asking questions, and then it says, more children. And me, being the idiot that I am, I'm about as mentally aware as Dory the fish. I'm like, oh, is there more children here? And my husband's like, no, the more children, like the family that got murdered here. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's their last name. How awesome is that,
Yeah.
But, I live in this little bubble of, like, I have no brain, and it's awesome sometimes. But we were getting direct responses. What about the more children? And it was like, save them.
Oh, wow.
And you're like, wait a second. That's deep.
Yeah.
And is this Mr. Moore or is this someone else? And it goes, someone else.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, that's direct answers.
Yeah.
How do you what? And we were there during daytime. That was just a walkthrough.
That's crazy.
It's just like, that's deep. And Lemp Mansion, we've got a few really good clips from Lemp Mansion where some guy named Roberto was talking to us in the basement and giving us direct answers. And he said his name multiple times because we weren't sure that that's what it was. And you're like, okay, well, who is Roberto? And why was he at Lemp Mansion? And did he work there? Because he's not a family member. It's so cool.
That's very cool. Kat Armstrong from Paranormal Exposures. I think we'll wrap it up there. Kat, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate it. Good luck in the world of the weird and investigating and all that. And I would love to come investigate with you guys sometime as long as you don't mind me asking a million interview style questions all night.
Oh, we might put duct tape on you. So.
Oh, awesome. That's great. Kat, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
All right. Thanks so much too.